Okay, wonderful. So let's first differentiate between hard skills and soft skills. And then as we go through, I'm going to explain exactly what networking is. I might, you know, burst your bubbles in terms of what you might think it is and what it actually looks like when it's something that actually provides success for you. And we'll go into why is it important, and then I'll give you some secret tips for success for you as you work your way towards a career in law. So first of all, hard skills, uh, as you may know, are the skills and knowledge that you have that are tangible. These are the kinds of skills you can list on a resume and are very understandable and measurable by the outside world. So, for example, if you say that you are absolutely well versed in a particular language that you speak, for maybe you speak Latin or can read and write Latin. Nobody speaks Latin these days, but nonetheless, or, for example, maybe you are fantastic in French. That is a hard skill. That's something measurable. Soft skills are not something that can really come through in a CV or application, except maybe tangentially. If you've had a lot of leadership experience, and if you've had any kind of opportunity to demonstrate soft skills, that might come through in something that you list on an application. But really, this is a skill that requires intuition, and it requires a lot of practice, and requires a lot of thought and self-analysis. And then it is applied to day, and it's really what moves and shakes the world, so to speak. It's your emotional intelligence, and it's the behavior you use around your goals, and specifically with other people. So it's something that has to be done and worked on with others. So basically, if we look at networking, it is your soft skills on steroids, right? Very, very important to consider that when you are thinking about your career. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. And Sarah, are you there? Great. Thank you. Okay, so one of the things that, people don't know is that actually you don't have to be the best, top of your class in order to get to where you want to go. Let's take a look at George Bush, of course, right? To those of you who received honors, awards, and distinctions, I say well done. And to the C students, I say you too can be president of the United States. People in high positions, people who are super successful, are not always the ones who had the top marks and had the most impressive CVs. Usually it's the people who know how to deal with other people, and more importantly, how to network with other people so that you can get where you want to go. In my life, and with the thousands of students I've helped, I am telling you that the successes I have seen have 99% of the time come from knowing someone else who boosted you up or led you in a particular direction or introduced you or opened a door for you. How does that work? People don't just randomly do that. You are responsible for making those connections, for having the networking skills in order to have people open those doors for you. There are, I have many friends who run organizations, who own their own businesses. I own my own business. Many times people will take, for example, an employee who is recommended by someone they know over just a wonderful CV, right? Because anybody can write something on paper, but getting the recommendation from somebody else, somebody you trust, is going to weigh a lot more in decision-making than, simply nice words on a page. And so this is why, if you start to think about what is important for the next few years as you move towards your solidification of your career, having the network that's going to support you and is going to lead you to those doors you want to have open for you is going to be absolutely vital. So let's move on to the next slide. Sarah, if you can go ahead. So yeah, that happens to be me. So how does this pertain to my story, and how might this inspire you? I will tell you the following. Being strategic in what you choose to do with your time is going to be vital for your success. So when you are choosing your hobbies, what you're going to be doing in your free time, even for enjoyment, and even who your circles are going to be in terms of who you spend time with, so important. So when I was really young, I was so shy. Like I'm talking like really shy. And maybe some of you have some kind of trepidation around, talking to people, networking, getting the word out there that you are striving towards a particular career in law and you've got a passion for whatever. Maybe getting that out there to people may feel difficult for you. Well, it was certainly difficult for me to even raise my hand in class when I was a kid. My face would turn redder than my hair. It was awful. But I saw people around me who definitely didn't have like the best and brightest ideas get noticed and have their world opened up to them by others simply because they displayed the confidence and the communication skills to make other people want to do that for them. So one aspect of networking is your communication skills, of course. And I'm telling you, as much as most people believe you're born shy or you're born one of those people who seem fearless speaking in front of thousands of people, I actually disagree. Personally, from my own experience, over many years, I've been observing, reading, watching, training, and practicing my communication skills and building up the confidence and the magic behind communication in order to myself have the capacity to do whatever I want, network with whoever I want, and feel confident and comfortable in any situation with other people. And I teach that to brilliant students at Brainpower. As Sarah mentioned at the beginning, one of my most in-demand courses is public speaking, debate, persuasion, that I actually run with a lawyer who's also an MPP and other professors. We've got journalists. We've got one of Harvard's top writers, Jay Heinrichs. We use his text. He Skypes into our courses. So it's a combined effort, but it's a course that really helps people find their most incredible communication skills, abilities, and then launch that into their own lives. And so that has been like a long journey. And at this point in time, I got to say, young people are so able to turn themselves around. If you're not already a gregarious social person, you can become that, and you can turn that switch on for yourself so that your networking skills become something quite simple for you. There are a lot of great resources out there. I will share my information with you. You can always reach out to me after session as well to find out. So what else can I tell you? Well, networking for me has been imperative. One of, I should say, the biggest decisions for me, for example, when I was doing my doctorate, was who my mentor was going to be. And your mentors are important in your life. These are the people who again, will open doors for you. I had the opportunity to study under one mentor at U of T, another mentor at York University, and I just really did my research and found out who is going to propel me forward, who's going to know the right people and introduce me to the right people to get me to the next step and the next step and the next step. There's a great saying, if you want to go somewhere, you got to know people who are already there and who will pull you up. And keeping that in mind and keeping that strategy of trying to surround yourself with people who are ahead, who know the right people, I'm telling you, your network is your net worth. So we'll go on to the next slide, and I can absolutely share my story a little more with you later, but for now, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so there's a lot of power when it comes to networking. I'll tell you a story about some really famous guys and how it happened for them. But this story is very typical, and it's something that'll help you as well. When it comes to law school, before I tell you the story, if you know people in the law schools that you want to go to, if you connect with the professors who are there, or once you're in law school, if you make connections with professors, if you find ways to build a rapport with people, you can find yourself knowing about opportunities before others, being suggested for opportunities before others, and you will find yourself finding success in ways that other people just don't have, no matter how hard they try, because they don't know the people already there. So, great story. Many of you have probably heard of Blackboard. It is a learning management system that is used quite often around the world in universities. And Blackboard was invented by two guys who were working in an accounting firm. I believe they were working at KPMG. They were in their 20s, and in their spare time, when they weren't doing their accounting work at home and one of their garages, they were building this, software thing. Now, they had created something awesome, but who cares? You can have the most incredible idea, but if you can't communicate it well and get other people to be excited about it and excited about you, and then spread the word until it gets picked up by someone who really needs it, then who cares? The idea will die with you. So they understood that. And so what they did is they would set aside time to show up at all kinds of conferences, networking meeting, events, parties, lunches, whatever they could find, they would show up and they would provide an elevator pitch, which we'll talk about later. They knew what they wanted to share with other people about the problem they were solving with their product, the passion they had for the particular field they were in, and the excitement for the future and how they're going to change the world. Now, all of you, since you want a career in law, you want to change the world too. So you need to start thinking about your passion, what you want to do to change the world. And if you're speaking to someone, you're introducing yourself to someone, how you can get them excited about who you are, right? Based on your vision and what it is you want to do. So anyway, they attended a bunch of networking and wonderful events. And eventually, after giving people that same story, somebody they didn't know, who they introduced themselves to, said to them, "Oh, yeah, I heard about you guys from this other person who is the girlfriend of this person." Okay. And then they're like, "Yeah, it's really cool to meet you. Tell me a little bit more." They told this person a little more. And he said, "You know what? My uncle has a business partner who recently, sold his business, his side of the business. And he's got a lot of money that he wants to invest in something. He's looking for something in technology. Why don't I introduce you guys?" Bada bing, bada bang. What do you think happened? Of course, they got their first $500,000 of investment, and then they took off. And then, of course, Blackboard became a multi-million dollar organization. So that's entrepreneurial, but it's the same for your careers. Get the word out there, show up. Even the fact that you're in this conference today tells me that you are already thinking about the right networking, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and making sure that you're connecting with people who are ahead of you. Find those mentors. That is what is going to propel you forward, getting the introductions. And I just got an email yesterday from one of my students who's in grade 12 as an example of networking. She asked me, even outside of class, do I know of any essay contests coming up? I told her about an international one, a very complicated, difficult one. It's very competitive. She asked me for advice because I've coached other students to do well in this contest. And guess what? Yesterday, she sent me a good news email. She won first place in the world and got $10,000 as a grand prize. And the sweetest thing, her email today basically, or yesterday night, I got it this morning, basically said, like, if I didn't know you and you hadn't suggested that to me, I wouldn't have had this opportunity and this great success. And that's you guys. You, by knowing the right people, by asking questions, by sharing your passion, you will also find opportunities that might otherwise just slip by you. So let's go on to the next slide. So how do you do this? Let's say you're convinced now that networking is a thing that you should try out. How do you do that? Well, first of all, I want to calm you down. It is not just for business people or marketing professionals. Okay, networking is for everyone. Even in life skills, for example, when I built my cottage up in cottage country, the first thing I did was make sure I knew the neighbors. I hosted a little sweet get together for them. I brought newspapers up from the city when I would drive up to the cottage country for my neighbors, and I connected that rapport. Why? First of all, they're great people, and it's nice to be around good people, but also I knew that I will need them one day and they will need me. They've been here longer than me. They know the area. I'm going to be asking them for advice. they're going to help me out. If I'm just on my own, I'm an island, right? So networking is for all areas of life, and for your law career, absolutely vital. It's not using people, it's sharing resources, it's sharing passion, and it's building strength in community. So I just really want you to do that like little mind shift. If it's something that sounds like manipulative, it doesn't have to be. I will say this: manipulation is when you try to persuade someone or try to push your agenda on someone without empathy. As long as you are an empathetic person and you care deeply about the other person, having your thoughts and goals and ideas shared with others is absolutely not manipulation. And the last thing that people believe that's wrong is that networking is frivolous. If you look at the statistics out there, if I'm not mistaken, the last business report shows that, and it actually in law firms were included in this report, that it was something like 77, I'll double check the stat, 77% of the new hires or the interns were there because they knew someone. This is not a joke, okay? So you got to know people. It's so important. I mean, politics alone can tell you that. All right, let's go to the next slide. So what are the secret tips? I'm going to share a few with you, and then we'll go into questions. These are very, very, very important. Okay, so let us start with secret number one. Say yes to opportunities. You don't know when an opportunity is going to be fantastic. Sometimes you have an opportunity to attend an event or to meet with others, and it seems like maybe it's not going to be great. Or sometimes it seems like, oh my God, it's amazing. And it turns out to be the opposite. So just say yes, take hold of those opportunities, get yourself out there, be motivated, and don't be judgmental of the opportunities until you've actually gone forward and done it. Now, of course, you don't want to waste your time and you want to be strategic, but I'm telling you, sometimes the best opportunities are under stones you haven't yet turned over. So it's being open to those new and important opportunities that's going to propel you forward. Let's go to secret number two. This one is one of my favorites. Back to the empathy piece. When you're networking, the frame of mind you have to be in is not what is this person going to do for me? No way. Okay. Everybody, I'm telling you right now, that's like the biggest way to not do well networking. You need to think about giving to others. What can you give to others? What can you do to help others? And the more you give and not expect anything in return, the more that amazing, amazing help will come to you. It's just a strange thing in life, and it works every time. So when you establish a conversation, a connection with someone, you meet someone for the first time, you ask questions. You are genuinely interested in who this person is, what makes them tick, what are they passionate about? And then you start thinking to yourself, how can I help this person? Do I know a great book they might like? Do I know someone who might be instrumental for their career growth or for whatever it is they're doing? Is there an interesting quote they might like? Is there an interesting activity or opportunity or a place they need to know about and share it? Or maybe they need some help with something that could be in your skill set and you want to give that to them. And that warmth and openness to giving other people whatever it is that you have is so well received. People remember that. People feel good about that. You end up having this, sparkly halo around you. And then later on, this person knows you, they think highly of you, they feel warm towards you. And then when you need something and you ask, most people will be very generous with their time and help. Or you don't even need to ask. They will have you in mind and they will contact you and say, hey, I remember when you told me blah, blah, blah. Now I have something to share with you. So it's this no expectation giving in networking situations. You get out there, share your passion, find out about people, try to give to people, and the world will respond. You will see. All right, secret number three. Practice your value proposition. So this is where we talk about elevator pitches. Now, maybe you've never heard of the term elevator pitch. So quick recap for those of you who, or quick introduction, I should say, for those of you who've never heard of it. An elevator pitch is a 30-second to 1-minute introduction to you or your product if it's something that you are trying to sell. But in your case, since you are the product and you are selling yourself, so to speak, to a career in law, it could be to a law firm, could be to a law school. Your value proposition, your elevator pitch is that 30-second to 1-minute introduction to you that will light a brain on fire, literally have that electricity jumping from neuron to neuron when you talk about yourself. And we call it an elevator pitch because the 30 seconds to a minute is about as much time as it would take if you entered an elevator and the person you really need to meet happened to be in the elevator. Maybe it's your future boss, or maybe it's the professor you want to have mentor you, or whatever it might be. If you happen to meet them in an elevator and it's your first introduction, the time it would take to get from the ground floor to the floor that that person would be leaving on, 30 seconds to a minute, could you wow them with your value proposition during that time so that it would leave an impression on them and they would think highly of you, and hopefully it would help you with where you want to go. So when you're writing a value proposition and you're brainstorming it, and then later you memorize it and make it something that just comes out naturally, you want to use literary devices. So if I could just take you back to English class for a bit, literary devices really help make people remember, feel, get excited, and be influenced by what you say. That means that when you're speaking about yourself, you want to use words and phrases that are a little bit unusual. So earlier on, if you recall, I mentioned a few words as I was describing things to you that you probably didn't anticipate. So I think I said something like soft skills, networking is soft skills on steroids, right? You probably didn't expect to hear the word steroids today when you entered this particular session with me. So that word is strange, it's different. It creates some kind of imagery, and it's also kind of funny to think about that. It's an exaggeration. We call it a hyperbole, as you well know. And it's a metaphor. When you create those metaphors, when you create those hyperboles, when you really show your passion in whatever it is your value proposition is going to be through that kind of use of language, it sticks in people's minds and it gets them more excited. If you just say when you meet someone, "Hi, my name is Karine. I'm a professor at Brainpower. I love teaching students, and my goal in life is to blah, blah." I mean, you probably won't remember that in a week or maybe even by tomorrow. Add in some imagery, add in some great metaphors, add in a famous quote that, is something that's really insightful or funny. And if you can elicit that emotion in people, people will remember you. We are emotional beings. We'd love to think, even as lawyers, right? We'd love to think that people are rational in their decision-making, but they are not. People are way more emotional and irrational, and that is what guides decision-making much more than anything else in our world. That's what it means to be human. So I urge you to start thinking about your value proposition, how you would introduce yourself. You can change it. It will morph over time as you grow and change over time, but it's going to be very helpful to you. All right, let's go to number 4. Compliment early and often. So speaking about being emotional beings, how do you make that great first impression on someone during a networking session? And networking can be in a group. It can be when you just meet someone one-on-one. It could be whatever it might be. You got to make the other person feel good. So it's got to be genuine, but find something that you genuinely think is awesome about the other person. Hopefully you're finding out important items about this person by asking good questions, and give them sincere compliments as soon as possible. That will bring down the guard of the other person and make them feel more open to you. It's a known psychology thing. People like those who like them. That's just a human thing. We like people who like us. So if you show that you like the person you're engaged with, if you show that you are genuinely impressed or interested, and you verbalize that and you share that, you validate them, it's going to do wonders for you in terms of creating that rapport and that connection. One thing I'll definitely say in terms of validating someone is when someone tells you something, you've all learned, I'm sure, to nod your head, to say, that's great, okay. But most people wait for their turn to say what they want to say. And that sends a signal to the listener that you may not have heard what they have to say, you may not have understood it, and you may not care. So one way to compliment someone indirectly, but is very powerful, is to validate what they've said by summarizing what they have just said to you before you move on. This is a Chris Voss technique. Chris Voss is an FBI, I believe former now FBI agent who is a master in persuasion. He teaches persuasion in various Ivy League schools across the states. He's written some great books I can recommend. And what he suggests is you get people to say the words, that's right. So when you meet someone, if they just shared something they're passionate about, you can then mirror that back to them and say, wow, so what I'm hearing you say is that you're so interested in blah, 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 and you're on the path to doing da, da, da. Is that right? And then the person will say, yes, that's right. Getting that from the other person is golden. That's when you know they feel they've been complimented and validated, and that you've actually heard them. And that when you say that before you jump in with your piece, it really creates and establishes a lot more warmth and connection. It's a very practical skill. It's difficult if you don't know it, but once you know it and you practice it, it's really super. Okay, so let's go to number 5. Look for common ground immediately. So people like people who like us, but people also like people who are like us. If you can find commonality and share what it is that is similar between you and the person you are networking with, again, that's a fast tracking way to make a great connection with the other person. So if they have an interest and you love it too, share the fact that you love it too. Share that passion. If they've had an experience and you've had it too, validate that by saying, oh, wow, that's so amazing. I did that too, or I experienced that too. If you need to commiserate with them, that's great. But I always suggest sticking to the positive as much as possible. Let's go to number 6. Pull the conversation, never push. So you've heard me say a few times in the last few minutes that you need to be asking the other person questions. That's how you pull a conversation. People are so worried about silence, awkwardness, introductions. What am I going to say? Don't worry. You want the other person to talk more, and you want to help them feel comfortable speaking by asking them questions. If they speak more than you, I'm telling you, 90% of the time, they're going to love the conversation you guys had. It's usually the person who talked more who feels very positively about the interaction. So let the other person speak more and help them speak more by pulling out of them what they want to share rather than you pushing on them what you want to say. Okay, that's so, so important. It's a brilliant way to even make friends. It's great in the dating world, whatever it might help you with, but certainly with networking, it's a very, very important tip. All right, let's go to the next one. I believe those are my 6 tips. So this is where you can contact me. Hopefully you've been taking some notes, but if you need me to review or go into more depth on anything I've said, happy to do so. This is really just like high level where to start thinking about networking and your soft skills. And I've just kind of skimmed the surface. There's so much more out there for you to learn. I have had, at Brainpower anyway, my students compete nationally, internationally in public speaking and debate and win. My students win top prizes in Ontario and beyond in their public speaking, communication skills. Actually, some of the executives here on Future Lawyers are winners of some of those public speaking contests and have taken my public speaking classes. I'm very proud of them. And I'm here for you. You know, I'm happy to help you, to mentor you. I love helping people. That's just my thing. That's like my raison d'etre, right? So I'm really, really excited to answer any more of your questions and to guide you in the right direction. So I'll let Sarah take over in terms of relaying the questions, and then I'm happy to answer. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. So someone asked, when you were in the process of overcoming your timidity, was it started with just a leap of faith and like jumping into new opportunities?
That's a great question. Definitely it takes a leap of faith, but it also took a lot of pain. And I think that fear and pain are wonderful motivators. I definitely knew that I have a lot to give in this world, and I was afraid that I wouldn't achieve my dreams if I didn't learn how to do what those confident people have. And I know for the longest time when I was a kid, I just thought, oh, they just know how to do it. I'll never be able to. But I just was very determined. I was afraid that I wouldn't reach this. This is your one life, people, right? You got one life. So I just figured like, I don't want to end up in the dust, right? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I always did well in school, but that's not enough, right? And the other piece is pain, right? If you know that you have something amazing to offer, or that you should have the opportunity given to you, and you don't get it for no good reason, it's painful. I'm sure we've all had that. And so for me, I thought, okay, well, what is that missing piece? And I just kept seeing it over and over again. It's who you know, it's do they love you? Do they want to propel you forward? I became that for others. This is why I do what I do, because I want to help propel other people, because I felt growing up that I really needed that. It is so important, especially if you're bright and you have so much to offer. You need the right people to push you forward. So I became that for others. But for you guys, you need to find those people. And so yeah, leap of faith, sure. But there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of TED Talk watching. There's a lot of, just trying it out and seeing what happens. There's a lot of that. Everything, of course, you got to take a leap of faith at some point, but definitely there's just trial and error involved there too. And getting yourself out there with the right people.
Great. Someone else asked, what are some ways to get out of a failed networking? Furthermore, how do you get out of a situation where both parties don't have that thrill to communicate?
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. How do you get out of a failed networking? I'm assuming that means like if you're in a situation where it's not going well, or maybe that's the follow-up question. I'm just trying to make sure I understood. Or if you're conversing with someone and it's not going well and you want to get out of it. Yeah, you don't want to waste your time. So remember, empathy is key, right? If it's failing, then there's a few things that might be happening. One, you're not asking the right questions of the other person. Two, they are not comfortable for whatever reason in the situation, or they're distracted. And in which case, just remember to always keep your love and empathy there. Like all people have problems. All people have something going on in their mind. It's probably not you. Just don't take it personally, and just show some love to the person and move on. I've had many instances where I'm having conversation with someone and I can tell it's like I'm pulling teeth, like I'm trying to get something. They're not giving me much. What am I going to do here? Okay. If there are other people I can speak to, and there always will be, I give my value proposition. I show my passion. Even if they're not showing me that they get it, I give it anyway. If I can give something to this person, and I might say like, well, it's been really nice chatting with you. I love what you've said about blah, blah, whatever they have said, or, it'd be really nice to connect a little bit more. I'm going to go do blah, 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 or I'm going to go chat with such and such, or I'd love to connect with you later on. Definitely, maybe you've got more to share with me later at a better time. And you just get out of that situation. Yeah, again, people really want to avoid the awkward. It doesn't have to be awkward. You are in control. It's your destiny that you are creating. So just craft it the way you want. Keep that in mind. Okay, nobody needs to hold you hostage.
And I think there was an adding on to the first question. Were there any specific moments that really affected you or your timidity?
Absolutely. There's a bunch. There's so many I could give. I mean, when I was very little, I would go to the library and my dad would have to ask the librarian for the books that I wanted. I'd like whisper it to him. And then I saw other kids and they're just like loud and talking to, and I'm like, look at this, like, what the heck, right? What's going on here? And then fast forward many years later, when there was a conference. So if any of you are thinking of going into academia, it could be related to law. One of the things you're going to have to do is to write research papers and then of course present them at conferences around the world. Well, before I became, superstar public speaker, if I can even give myself that moniker, I would get so nervous before these speaking engagements, and I wouldn't like, I would be so excited about what I had created or the research, but for some reason I was worried about judgment. How, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I slip up? What if, whatever it might be? And there was a particular time when one of my colleagues presented a research paper and I knew that his research paper sucked. Sorry, I'm going to use that word. Just going to throw it out there. It just sucked. And not only that, but he had borrowed from his professor. It was kind of not even cool. Like, it wasn't clean. And that professor wasn't there, but he kind of took ownership for what was on the page. But anyway, the way he presented it was so brilliant. And it was like tantalizing to listen to him. You just wanted to hang on every one of his words. And at the end of the conference, he had like this crowd of people surrounding him asking questions. He was bullshitting his way through everything, which is awful. But what he did that was dynamic was wonderful. So I just thought to myself, okay, what about people in this world who are honest and have amazing ideas? And the only thing holding them back is the way that they communicate and the way they don't just know how to do that. Wouldn't it be awesome if it wasn't the bullshitters who were getting the crowds? What if it was like the good people because they know how to do what they have to do? So that really gave me a lot of inspiration. I said, we've got to do this. I got to do this for myself. I got to do this for other people, young people who are awesome and can change the world properly, So that was that. I mean, I have lots more, but that's, good for now.
Yeah,
Any other
great
questions? Happy to hear from others.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap it up now to move on to the next part of the conference. A
No
huge
problem.
thanks to Karine for the informative presentation and for answering all the questions.